Hello YouTube, my name is Robert Simmons and this is my first ever YouTube video. Just started a channel. I've been thinking about it for a while now. I've been using YouTube for a long time. A lot of useful information. You know, the days of calling a handyman are long past us. You know, all you have to do is go to YouTube and you'll find a plethora of information to help you out. And all of those that have posted videos to help people out. Knowledge is power. I appreciate you all. I always hit a like for anything that's helpful, even if it's not. The fact that you took your time out to make a video, you'll get a like from me, and some of you I even subscribe to. So I decided that I'm also going to start contributing, not just taking, and that's why I decided to start a YouTube video. And it's going to be about a lot of different things, nothing specifically all the time. But anything that I feel is helpful and I can pass on, that's what I'm going to make a video on. It's not going to be a lot of bells and whistles, just hopefully informative. So this first video, just to tell you a little bit about my background, I'm a retired NYPD Highway Patrol Lieutenant, motorcycle police. And motorcycle riders pretty much know that the best riders out there are probably motorcycle cops, because we receive the type of training that you have to have in order to be in the unit. And that includes fast riding, that includes slow riding. But in particular, it's the slow riding that I'm going to make this video on, because that's the kind of riding that most people don't do. You know, especially on a motorcycle like this, which is 877 pounds and $45,000. The fear is dropping it. So I'm going to make a short video on that, and I might make others after that if I see that there's an interest in it. Now, I already know that there's an interest in it, and just to also point out, anytime I post a video that is in the area of somebody that I follow, I'm going to give them a shout out because they deserve it. So in this particular category, Jerry Palladino is going to get the shout out for this. Ride Like a Pro. If you've never heard about it, you know, just type in Ride Like a Pro. He's been doing this for 18 years plus. He's also a former motorcycle patrolman, and he's got a lot of good information. He teaches courses. He has videos. He has books. So he's the real deal, okay? And I'm not trying to get to that level. This is just an informative thing, and that's all it is. Okay, so as a matter of fact, on Sunday, I'm going to be taking a 5-hour drive out to Florida to take Jerry's class. You know, and again, I'm never thinking that I know everything. I'm not an expert, you know, because you can have, I mean, the NYPD has hundreds of motorcycle cops, but everybody's not on the same level. It's like every other job. There are people that are going to take it more serious than others. So you have to practice on this thing. You have to practice. And every time you ride, you should be looked at as practice, okay? So with that being said, I am going to drive out there. And to me, it's just fun, all right? It's just fun. I see cones, and I get goosebumps. I love it, all right? I like to challenge myself. So, all right, I'm not going to drag this out. Like everybody else says, though, if you like the video, hit the like, all right? If you want to subscribe, fine. If not, that's fine too. I'm really not doing this for any type of monetary reasons. I'm just sick of looking at people's videos and taking in information and not being able to share anything. Okay, take care, guys. Enjoy. Good afternoon. Beautiful day here in Georgia. Partly cloudy. I'm in an empty parking lot. I got my wheel and I got some cones. You know what that means. So today I'm going to work on, I want to get used to this bike. You know, I got pretty used to the Indian. I was able to throw that thing around. This bike's a little bit heavier. This bike's 877 pounds. But again, the weight doesn't have a lot to do with it. The only time the weight is really important is when you're picking the bike up after you drop it. But if you have proper throttle control, you stay in the friction zone, you use that rear brake, it doesn't matter the weight. Remember, the motorcycle will stay up as long as there's power going to the rear wheel. It wants to go straight. That's why when you're going to make a turn, you got to pull in the clutch. But you're going to stay in the friction zone, because if you're going too slow, the bike's going to fall. So all I'm going to do today is I'm going to do a single Serp. I'm going to start it from down there, coming up this way, and then I'm going to do a U-turn. Now, normally I would do a U-turn just between two parking spots. I think a parking spot is supposed to be 9 feet, so two of them is 18 feet. And I was watching Ride Like a Pro, and he does it with 3 parking lots so people can get used to it, which is a lot of room. This motorcycle can turn in 18 feet if you turn it properly. So First, I'm going to measure these parking spaces to make sure they are in fact what they're supposed to be. And if they're not, it doesn't matter. Wherever the cones are, that's where it's going to be. All right. And then after I do the single Serp, which is just the motorcycle going in and out, that's really a warm-up exercise to get you used to. That's how, see how the camera's moving? That's how the bike should be moving. Nice sway. When you sway the motorcycle, it makes it easier to turn. So it doesn't matter, again, if it's heavy. It helps you if you get the bike moving in a certain motion. So if I'm going to make a left U-turn, as I'm approaching that U-turn, I'm going to swing left, then go right, and then that'll make the momentum of that movement will make that turn that much easier. All right, let me get this set up and we'll go from there. All right, so I got the course set up. Here's the single Serp. These cones are 10 feet apart. If I was out here with some fellow riders that aren't as experienced, I would space them out 12 feet, maybe even 14 feet. You know, it doesn't have to be that close, but it's all about double cones mean starting point or an exit. So this is the starting point, and you can go either way. So if I wanted to go to the right first, left, and this is again bringing you into the momentum, and it's also teaching you to stay in the friction zone. You have to make sure you have a constant throttle. You have to keep power to the rear wheel, and you control that power with the clutch. And you also keep a foot on that rear brake, because the rear brake's that's gonna help you be able to regulate your speed as well. Now once you come out of this last serpentine, you can either go straight to the right, and again, if you're gonna go straight to the right, dip to the left, and don't cheat yourself out of space. Dip to the right, bring your wheel all the way to right here, all the way to right here, not all the way over here. And people, I see that a lot. People will make a turn and cheat themselves. They're all the way over here. So now when they go to make the turn, and especially if they're not dragging the boards, they're not going to make it. All right, it's not impossible, but you have to drag the boards to make it. So again, dip to the left and then come to the right, and in that same momentum, bring that wheel about right here. Now usually what they do is they tell you, they'll usually have a cone right there, and it'll be an offset color. And they'll tell you, as soon as you go to make that left turn, turn your head and look at that cone. Because people want to look straight, and if you look straight, you're going to go straight. Turn your head as far as you can. So I'd even say, look past that cone. Maybe it's something over there. You don't, even if it's something non-specific, just look left as far as you can, and it'll make it a lot easier to turn that bike left. All right, and then go back through the serpentine, and then when you come back, go through the serpentine again, and then this time we're going to go to the left. Same thing applies. You're going to make a left turn, swipe to the right, and then go back to the left. Don't cheat yourself. Bring that wheel all the way to about right here at the line. Go to make the turn, spring your head around, look right, make that right turn. All right, and again, this is 18 feet. I did measure it. So 18 feet is fine for me. Obviously, if I had some other people here, I'd go to 3 spots. Actually, I wouldn't go to the whole 3 spots. Maybe I would, because I don't want intimidation at first. People look at it and it looks tight. And when you're riding a big motorcycle like this, yes, even 3 parking spots, once you see the cones, it looks tight, because I've seen people in space bigger than that can't navigate that U-turn. They're still duck walking the bike. And again, I'll say this, there's no reason to ever duck walk this motorcycle. And what do I mean by duck walking? I mean straddling the bike and moving like this. Duck walking. You have motorcycle riders that if they really need to make a U-turn on a street, and I'm going to say narrow, but it's really not narrow for the radius that this bike can turn, but narrow for their skill level, they'll go around the block rather than make a U-turn. And it should never be that way. You know, it's something that you just need to practice at so that you can be more confident. Listen, this is a dangerous piece of equipment if you don't really know how to ride it properly. It's not just about going straight and going fast. People think that's what motorcycle riding is all about. And true, the kind of motorcycle riding that I do is called 2%ers. We're 2% of the population of motorcycle riders that ride like that know how to ride like that. However, there are a bunch of classes out there where people are teaching people to ride like that. It's called slow riding. And that's what separates the real riders from the, I don't want to say real riders, but it's definitely a higher level of a skill that comes into play. And truth be told, it doesn't take that much skill. It's just a matter of being able to get your brain It's a matter of being able to get your brain to not follow your instincts. You know, you're told to look left all the way, but your instincts tell you, I need to be looking straight so I can see where I'm going. I don't want to hit anything. Even if you're in an empty parking lot, your brain is still worried about you hitting something. That's just something you have to fight, you know. Then when the bike leans, your body feels like, oh, I'm going to fall. And the instinct is to put your foot down. When in reality, you should never be putting your feet down. You know, you should never be duck walking the bike. If the bike feels like it's leaning too much and it's going to fall, don't put your foot down, especially on a bike this heavy. You know, half the time that's not going to work. If it can be effective, but a lot of the times once that bike gets to a point of no return, it's not going to happen. And not only that, as the bike is moving forward, and it happened to me in motorcycle school, I put my foot down, and because the bike's moving forward, my heel moved up and hit that back saddlebag. I almost broke my ankle. I sprained it pretty bad. There are a lot of people that did break their ankles. So remember I said, the motorcycle wants to stand up. That's why if you give this motorcycle power, you ever see a remote control motorcycle with a fake rider on it? All you have to do is give it power. It's going to stand up. This machine is the same way. And that's why when you're making this turn, if you have the clutch all the way in, the motorcycle is going to fall. As long as there's power going to the back wheel, it's fine. So if that bike is leaning and you feel like, oh man, I feel like I'm going to fall, just let the clutch out a little and it'll stand itself up, or it won't fall. Let's put it like that. But don't pop the clutch out. We don't want to jerk the bike. Let the clutch out slow, give it a little throttle. Remember, you're always on that rear brake, and the bike won't fall. And you have to trust that. And that's the biggest thing. That's the hardest thing to deal with. You have to trust that. And especially somebody riding like a $40,000 motorcycle like this. So what I did see people do is they bought pipe warmers and they put them over their crash bars. Because if you have crash bars, that's the only thing that's going to hit the ground anyway. So that's something you can do to give you some reassurance that you're not going to mess anything up. We're going 5-10 miles per hour. So if the motorcycle falls, it's just going to fall and it's going to be leaning on the crash bars, you know, and you can just pick it up. And if you have pipe cleaners on the crash bars, you won't even scratch those. I would double it too. Because again, you're not going fast enough where if you fall, it's going to scrape the ground and scrape through the pipe cleaner. I'm sorry, the pipe warmer. So that's just a little example of something I saw. So, all right, enough talk. Let me get to it. I'm gonna set the camera up over here and see how it looks with me doing the whole thing. Okay, later. Okay, so another reason I'm recording this, I used to do this for my cops. When I would set up a cone course for them, I would record them because it gives you a much better perspective to be able to see what you're doing off of the motorcycle. And just by recording it, they would be able to look and see how much they're cheating themselves by turning the motorcycle, starting their turn here instead of coming all the way over here, or being able to see that they're not turning their head, and that's why they're not making that turn. It's so funny how just turning your head can make such a difference. All right, so keep doing it. a scraping sound, don't let that scare you either. The scraping sound is letting you know that you've reached the limit of the lean angle on this motorcycle. Now, if you ride a rice rocket has a much steeper lean angle because those bikes are meant for speed and you're leaning around turns. Obviously, this doesn't have the same level of a lean angle. So with a rice rocket, when you lean that motorcycle, because it leans so much, then you have to start being concerned if you're going to lose traction because you're leaning so much. That's never going to be a concern with this bike. It's not going to be able to lean that much. And those floorboards, that's why everything is set up that way. So it will warn you when you hear that scrape, okay, that's it, don't lean anymore. All right, I think I'm going to set up, I'll set up a double Serp. That's what I'll do, a double serpentine. Thing I forgot to mention, remember I said that when you enter this U-turn, that you want the same motion that you had in this serpentine, where you're going back and forth. And remember I told you, if you're going to make a left turn, you want to dip left and then right, just like the serpentine, and that momentum will make that turn easier. Okay, now also remember I told you that if the rear wheel on this motorcycle has power, it wants to stand up. So what I failed to mention is when you're doing that dip, just like in the serpentine, you have to squeeze the clutch in. You have to take power away from the rear wheel every time you dip, every time you turn, every time you turn the handlebars, every time you turn the handlebars. So you're keeping, that's why it's a lot going on. It takes coordination. You're keeping constant throttle, or some people like to do a rev throttle. I don't like that. I like a constant throttle. That way I know it's power because I hear it. And then all I have to do is let the clutch out just a little bit while I'm doing that. But every time you turn, squeeze, let it out. Squeeze, let it out. When you're coming out of the turn, let it out, because that's going to make the motorcycle want to stand up. And then as soon as you get ready to go into the next turn, squeeze. So there's a lot of that going on here. When you're coming here, the clutch is out. As soon as you're going to do this, lean this way, squeeze. Squeeze it in, let it out. Squeeze it in, let it out. And then squeeze it partially here, because this is where you're going to be in the friction zone, making this turn, keeping power on that rear wheel. And as you're coming out, let the clutch out, the bike will stand back up straight. Okay, so another thing I wanted to mention before I set up the double Serp is, as I said before, everything is about the friction zone. If you can stay in that friction zone, and you can have foot on the rear brake, and remember, that's another thing too. You should never, ever, ever, ever touch the front brake when you're on this cone course. With that being said, you should never be touching the front brake anytime you're going less than 15 miles per hour. I'm going to say anything less than 20. I'll give you 20, but not much, because the front brake is irrelevant. It's not needed, it's not used, nor should it be used on a cone course or any slow type riding, because the front brake being pulled while you're trying to make a slow turn will put that motorcycle right down. All right, so that's a habit of people that have been riding motorcycles for years. You know, when I went through my motorcycle training, and I should also say, I didn't know how to ride a motorcycle prior to the NYPD motorcycle unit teaching me. So that's the only kind of riding I know. So that's how I always ride. So it doesn't matter if the motorcycle is $100,000. That's how I'm going to ride, because to me, that's just how you ride. So speaking about the friction zone and duck walking, I see riders coming to a stop, their feet are already out like this, and sometimes as they're taking off, or if traffic is slow, the feet, listen, again, all that's showing, every time you put your feet spread out like this while the motorcycle is moving, you're just displaying how inexperienced you are, or how much confidence you lack in your ability to keep this motorcycle standing up just by staying in the friction zone. Because again, if you looked at me doing this when I was going in the circle, just doing U-turns like that, how fast do you think I was going? 4 or 5 miles per hour tops, right? I could have done that all day, not literally, but the point is, as long as I have rear power going to that rear wheel and I'm controlling it while staying in the friction zone, and I'm on the rear brake, as long as I'm doing all of that, the bike's not gonna fall. The only way that motorcycle can fall is if I pull in the clutch too much, when there's no power going to the rear wheel, and at that speed, yes, it won't take much. All I have to do is pull that clutch in probably once. Boom, it's gonna go down because I'm already extremely leaned and I'm already going about 4 or 5 miles per hour. So at that point, you have to stay at a perfect spot in the friction zone. And you'll know where it is. Everyone knows where their friction zone is, but people don't usually think about their friction zone with the board scraping. That's the thing. So you're really mind fucking yourself. That's what it is. At some point, you have to trust it. So one of the exercises that I recommend is forget about the cones. Just start going in circles. And as you're going in the circles, start to lean just a little bit more and just a little bit more. And then we can introduce, not cones, because sometimes people look at the cones and they get intimidated. We can use the lines and the parking spots. And like I said before, I'm doing it in 2. You can do it in 3. You can do it in 4. The point is, you want to get the radius of that circle smaller, right? That's just going to get your confidence level up. That's all that's about, of you being in the friction zone and being able to control that bike. And once you do that, that's actually the part that's more challenging for people. So my suggestion is practice the friction zone in the instance that I was just talking about, when you're bringing the motorcycle to a stop or when you're about to take off. As soon as you're about to take off, your feet should be on the boards. Nothing should be out. You shouldn't have your feet nothing should be out. As soon as the motorcycle starts to move at 1 mile per hour, pick your feet up. Because at that point, you're in control. All your controls are here, right? This is not the Flintstones. Your feet don't control anything. So get them on the boards, get in that friction zone. And that's the easiest thing. Just give it a little power. It's gonna stand up, right? And if it feels like you're gonna lose a little control, trust me, give it a little, let the clutch out a little more, it'll stand up, work it out. And if it's stop and go traffic where you have to put your feet down, that's fine. But again, being in funeral details where you have to ride 2 abreast and riding about this slow, clutch is burning out, back in the day, I remember that. But yeah, you might be doing some of this, but the point is, you're never gonna see somebody putting their feet down. Again, all you're doing is showing the world, hey, I don't have any confidence in my riding ability, so I look like a little kid on a bicycle, all right? And none of this is said to be a put down because, again, all it takes is being struck by lightning. What do I mean by that? When I first started in motorcycle school, oh my God, I just couldn't get it. I could not get it. I don't care what they were saying. I don't care how loud they were yelling. My brain couldn't get my body to do what they were telling me to do. And then one day that's what they call, I got struck by lightning. It just hit me. And ever since then, it's a piece of cake. I don't care what kind of motorcycle you put me on. I'll do it because the rules still apply. It's the same thing. Okay, so I am going to show you some what I'm talking about as far as coming to a stop and then starting. Okay, so once I start the motorcycle, I'm hoping that as I'm talking, you can hear me. So I'll speak a little louder when I do it. But all I'm going to do basically is I'm going to put the motorcycle right here. So that means the exhaust is going to be behind me. I'm not going to say anything because you wouldn't hear it anyway. And as I go to move, you're going to see I'm going to pick my feet up immediately. No reason to have my legs spread out or one leg spread out. Immediately, take control of the motorcycle. This rides your motorcycle, not these. Okay? I'm at a red light. Okay, now this is really a police thing, but I'm gonna say it anyway because I think it's still relevant. You ever see people, every time they stop the motorcycle, they put it in neutral and both their feet are out. Now I get it, that's important at times. Sometimes you wanna let go of that clutch, especially these hydraulic ones. They put more pressure on your forearms. When you do these cone courses all day, I'm telling you, at the end of the day, your forearm is sore. So I get that, but that shouldn't be a habit all of the time. And the reason I say that is because we're taught that when you stop, you already know that, I told you, once you're under 15 miles per hour, you shouldn't be touching the front brake anyway. So your foot's already on the rear brake. When you come to a stop, your left foot goes down, your right foot stays on the rear brake, always. And the motorcycle stays in drive. in first gear. And the reason for that is if you need to move real quick, sometimes every second counts. You see somebody coming up behind you and they don't seem like they're slowing down and you need to get the hell out of there, just taking the time to put the thing back in drive could be all the time that you need it. That could make the difference on you getting smacked. That's another reason why when you stop, you don't pull right on the car in front of you. Again, this doesn't have the kind of turning radius where you can like turn a steering wheel like this and just move. Even if you turn it all the way, you know, and again, if you don't have that confidence and riding ability to do that, lean the bike and get it out of there. The point is, give yourself room. No reason to be right up on somebody, okay? All right. So I'm simulating, I'm at a red light. Light turns green. As soon as you see this motorcycle start to move, I don't know if you'll be able to see it, but my foot, because the other one's gonna be on the brake. The foot's coming up. I'm not gonna wait until I get to 10 miles per hour, 5 miles per hour to put it up. It goes up right away. In fact, I don't know if you even noticed this, but I put my foot up before the motorcycle moves. I give it a little gas. It's the same principle that applies over here. You give it some throttle and you can hear the throttle. Once you hear that, all you got to do is let the clutch out a little bit. You're not popping it out. We don't want to do a wheelie. And once you do that, the motorcycle is going to stand up. So don't worry about it. Pick your feet up. Now I'm going to show you from the front. Notice, I'm picking my foot up before the motorcycle even starts. Huh? Green light? Huh? Green light? Gas? Once you master that, then the other stuff becomes easy. Like let's suppose this camera is a car in front of me and I need to get out past it. I don't have a lot of room. I can't swing the bike. So this is one of those times where you have to turn the wheel all the way and just lean the motorcycle and trust that your throttle control is going to get you around that turn. So actually, let me back up and do that so you can see the whole thing. I don't know how the hell I have that camera set up, so I don't know what it can see, but there's a white line in front of me. I'm gonna act like that's a car and I need to make a right turn to get out of here. All right, how am I gonna do that? Same principle. In front of me. I don't have a lot of room, but something's coming from behind. The other thing I'll say is, don't worry about over revving. You can rev this thing all the way to 8,000 RPMs or whatever. It doesn't matter. Because remember, the clutch is what's going to determine whether this motorcycle moves. If you got the clutch in, as a matter of fact, sometimes I like over revving. I like keeping that rev high so that I know that if I need power, it's there. All I got to do is let the clutch out a little bit. Because even at full rev, if you only give a little clutch, you only get a little power. You let the clutch all the way out, then you get the full rev. All right. Okay, so I decided not to do the double Serp, but what I am going to do is, okay, so here's the gate. Like I said, double cones indicate an entrance or an exit. We're going to come in here. And basically what we're going to be doing is, and again, all of the rules apply. As soon as we get to this cone, as soon as we pass it, as soon as we pass that cone, when the front wheel is at that cone, you should be looking at that cone. Squeeze the clutch, make that turn, come out here, take it out wide. I got some little gravel or whatever here, so I'll take it easy on this turn over here. As soon as you get here, squeeze, go around, you're looking at that cone. And then you're gonna go around that cone. As soon as you get to it, squeeze, turn your head to the left, look at the next cone. And you're just gonna keep going around. It's almost like a wide serpentine, around, and then go out of that gate. I put that gate a little close to make it a little challenging. All right, so you know what? Let me put the camera down here so I can actually see how much you're gonna get it. My lovely wife is sitting in the truck. She came here and surprised me. And my sister-in-law, they rolled up on me. So I told them to park right there in the air conditioning because it's November 15th and it is nice out here. It's 84 degrees. Love it. Okay, so let's see what we can see. All right. That's gonna have to be good enough. Let's do it. Now it's important to also mention, see that last cone I went around? To get through this gate, if I didn't squeeze the clutch in to turn the wheel, no way to make it, impossible, because the motorcycle wants to go straight. Have to pull in that clutch to really be able to turn this motorcycle. Let's do it the opposite direction now. And that's all it is for now. I'll come up with some, well, not come up with, I didn't invent them, but I'll put down some other things later. I'm hoping to get some people out here with me. Of course, I'll spread everything out for them. Listen, leave your ego at home. It's got nothing to do with that. But it's just all about getting comfortable. You know, I don't want anybody to be uncomfortable, but at the end of the day, the more comfortable you are with your riding skills, the more comfortable you'll be. And believe it or not, the safer you'll be. Again, this thing could be a death trap. All right. Sometimes it's not all about just going straight, going fast or whatever. You have to know how to slow ride too. It's important. All right. Till next time.